The government is going to be unveiling or announcing the full details of its fuel support scheme later today, which is aimed at easing pressure on key sectors including farming and road transport. The Taoiseach Micheál Martin saying the measures will significantly help those struggling with rising costs. But while industry groups are broadly welcoming the move, questions remain about whether the supports go far enough and whether households are being left behind. So to discuss this, I'm joined in studio by Eugene Drennan, the Deputy Vice President of the Irish Road Hauliers Association. And on the line we have the Clare County Chair of the IFA, the Fecal Farmer, Stephen Walsh. And you're both very welcome to the show. And Eugene, I mean, obviously we're waiting for the announcement. It sounds like the haulage sector, transport, set to receive around 120 million over 3 months. I suppose the devil will be in the detail, but how far do you feel that will go in offsetting the rising costs your members are and have been facing?
Well, I suppose the first thing to say in the negotiation of this deal, it was because of the unrelenting upward pressure of the cost of fuel, and something had to be done. And in any of the negotiations or any deals you'll be doing, like there is an area of uncertainty, especially with the war. Totally unsure of what's going to happen next, where are we going,
how long it will go on for,
all of these questions. So are these measures enough? I believe they will be. They'll certainly help a lot. The government has done well to come this far. We have uncertainties here in that fact that it's opened up to anybody who has a vehicle over 3.5 tonnes, and for the coach people and coach tourism, though I do not know exactly their package similar to this, but they would have different requests because they're local linked transport, their service line transport, and then their tours. But though they negotiated beside us, we were actually considering our own and discussing.
You were too focused on your own sector, which is understandable. Look, I mean, broadly, the IRHA is welcoming the scheme, but you're warning it won't save every business. So have you a sense of what proportion of hauliers are still at risk? And even with the support, which will be announced, what kind of potential trouble that will leave some of your sector in?
The people most at risk are people who are very highly in debt, who haven't got increases from their customers. Like, the customers have to take a fair bit of strain, which they have at the bottom end on our rates.
So you have you've passed on some of what you've been suffering, but I guess did that reach a limit of you didn't want to lose those customers? You've kind of put as much on them as you possibly could.
Yes, absolutely. There was big pushback. And our customers range from services to building sites or to roadworks and to construction, and right through to the farm and the medical, which is the big earners for Ireland now, and the export and long distance deliveries, all of that.
Okay, let's bring Stephen Walsh in. Stephen, around 120,000 farmers expected to benefit. The sense you're getting from the scheme, do you think it's going to work for you? Is it targeting the right people in agriculture?
Well, I suppose it is, and I suppose really, as Eugene was saying there, I mean, it'll, a lot of it will break down to the detail and, how easy it will be to get this money out here. I suppose the big months for farming is coming up in the next couple of, the next 12 weeks to 20, is when silage gets cut and, slurry gets out, a lot of the work. And I mean, look, I suppose we have to say that I suppose the weather has improved, so at least that is a huge help over the last few days, and at least that's a very positive step. But again, I suppose that, the space that we really need to make sure of is the contractor. I mean, the contractors are going to suffer huge cost inflation here. And I suppose this is why this is basically to curb that inflation at farm level. And basically it goes into all other sectors. So, but the contractor needs money now. He needs to be able to get fuel to get the work done. And the most important thing in farming is the work gets done. Because if it doesn't get done, there'll be knock-on effects going back into next winter. If there isn't enough, food supplies and feed for animals.
And will the expected reductions in green diesel help you get that work done? I suppose when you put it together with the earlier excise cuts, you're looking at basically an effective reduction of around €274 in the purchase of 1,000 litres of green diesel.
Yeah, and again, I suppose until we see the detail and how that will break down, but I mean, it's positive. And I mean, even diesel has reduced. I mean, it can be bought somewhere between 130 to 140, so that's back from 160. But it's because it's such a volatile situation. I mean, if that jumps back up again, we're back in the fire again, like. But look, it's a help. It's certainly, and it's needed now. Definitely the money needs to be got out fast, because if contractors can't, buy this fuel, I mean, sure, work can't get done. If they don't get the work done, it's a knock-on effect. So I suppose really what we want to see is the money gets out fast, particularly to contractors, and obviously then from a farmer's point of view, if they need money to pay the contractor to do the job as well. So it's the speed that money gets out there is really essential at the moment.
Okay, and I'm sure that'll be a consideration for yourselves as well, Eugene. It's all well and good hearing what you're going to get, but it's when and how quickly you get it.
No, we will get it reasonably well because of our negotiations with government on this over the years, and particularly during COVID, that we opted to go for this type of format of a fund. We were quite happy to go there, though we had presented papers on a graduated reduction scale of fuel as it rose, and we had also given indications of one or two other options to be considered. When the Wind Tourism Fund, I was quite happy with it because we'd got it from a fund before, which meant we sort of superseded our slightly went above all the rules and regulations of Europe, all the rules of excise, carbon, many, many rules, the bottom price of fuel. It went to a wartime fund, which is administered easily. And the other great thing for us, and I believe it's the same for the farmers, is that it's given by one department. With us, it's Department of Transport. So they have a lot of our detail as it is. They definitely have the licence sector, who owns what's on licences, what can be given. And a lot of the background is ready to roll. They have a lot of work done in the last 2 weeks getting ready for this in the Department of Transport. So we expect to be starting from tomorrow online application. So I think this will be reasonably quickly, because there is a shortage of capital due to the credit line for fuel as well being narrowed. It has caused some bit of a shortfall in that you have expended this very high cost of fuel before you get the remuneration of your work from your customer. But that will help, though a little bit behind. It's the only way it can be done. So that is fair to Stephen, and even for ourselves. The repeat of this through April for us and through May, should the price of the pump be on average above 190. If it falls below that, the government gives us nothing. We're up for nothing, and it's that side of it is fair. If it's above that, it's sort of the standard we've taken, that we cannot go forward, we cannot afford to go out, to go broke, to be losing money every day, and it'll kick in for then. And if it goes onwards, we go back into negotiation. Now, I don't know if it goes onward, could the state hold the totally open-ended nature of this one. That's for their side to negotiate. I'm just giving the warning. But at least the door is open, and the reality of reaction that was needed has dawned on the government, and it was we, the Hauliers, who brought that to them, that it needed to be sorted, it needed action, and irrespective of what Trump was doing, irrespective of the rules of Europe, of what Europe wanted you to do, it was very necessary, because I say it, till I die, we're at the periphery of Europe, we're an island, we're off the edge, we're furthest away from everything. The immediacy of any of these effects are hitting harder on an island. Anywhere in Europe that's an island, it affects them.
Okay, of course, yeah. And, Stephen, look, I mean, the support, it runs from March to July. What happens after that if fuel prices remain volatile? I mean, we had the protests at the start of the month. Will today's announcement go far enough to prevent further disruption, or post-July, if things are still looking bad, is there a possibility of further action?
Well, sure. I suppose I suppose we're crystal ball glazing on that one. But sure, look, I mean, if it's about trying to keep basically everyone in business, and it was getting to the stage where, I mean, it looked very bleak if it continued as it was going a month ago. I mean, a lot of farmers, a lot of contractors, number one, will go to business first, with the knock-on effect on farmers. So this package is going to help, absolutely. As I said, we still don't know the detail of it. I mean, Eugene said that basically that, he believes that money will be got out fast. That's very essential. That's the most important part. And, because farmers, again, we're price takers. We're the bottom of the line. And if we can't really set what we get first, we take what's left. And it's that point is why you become so vulnerable. And I mean, again, when you see the figures, 120,000 farmers, there's a lot of farming there, that needs this package to work. And again, as you said, look, down the road, if things gets worse. But look, I mean, we have to make sure it works, and we have to make sure that we try and keep ahead of the curve. And I mean, that was part of the problem is that a situation was arising and it wasn't getting the attention it needed. And I think that's why farmers got so frustrated, and that's why the protest happened, because there wasn't that action, or there wasn't that thinking ahead, because we're so dependent on oil in every facet of our life. And if oil gets dearer and out there, it means that everything, it drives inflation. And sure, inflation, I mean, it puts so many businesses under pressure. So I suppose that's why this support is absolutely necessary. And it may be necessary if things go more volatile in the future, but we don't know.
Well, yeah, we don't know yet, as you say. That's kind of an element of crystal ball gazing. So, Eugene, I know you want to come in that, because obviously your association, you weren't back in the protest.
No, we were okay with the protest, but we didn't back
some of the blockade.
No, we wouldn't. The blockade was totally wrong, is wrong still today. That people can get to hospitals or anything like that, totally wrong. On the price of going forward and the price of fuel, I wouldn't have anybody hold their breath today, and I often try to bring a little bit of good news to people in these casts, but getting the oil that has been blocked to the refineries now and getting it out into the world that is starved for it. Like, there's so many people on rationing of fuel around the world already, and it is scarce, and while it remains scarce, it will remain high. There'll be big demand, so that has to ease first. Then you have a huge change last night in the OPEC. UAE have drawn away from Iran essentially in OPEC, and in that somebody's done a deal. There's one of the big demands of the world have got to UAE, or it's money involved for certain. So all that has to readjust and find a new level before we see any downturn of fuel. It's the stabilisation that this might help, and it would be great. And also, just before I go, I'd like to pay one bit of credit to the government, that with these packages to us and to the farmers, there is that you can not have fear in the future, in the immediate future of the high demand of the year, that there is that little bit of stabilisation brought into the market for 2 to 3 months only, and then we look again. But at least we have that. It's great help both to farming and to us.
Just before we finish, a quick word on tolls, because that is another issue. You've joined us many times before. Obviously there's tolls, port charges, levies are causing major pressures, and incidentally I see revenues from tolls in the M50 have nearly doubled since 2015, from 111.2 million in 2015 to 216.3 million last year, an almost 95% increase. So in light of that, is that still going to be a bit of a hobby horse issue for you?
Oh, absolutely. We cannot understand why we can't have the M50 free. It's paid for. It was the original issues we had with government, was the upward spiral of costs all over the place in Ireland that had to be levelled. And talking about tolls, it's now been negotiated, or been what they're going to do with the Cork bypass at Charleville, Charleville, a road that's used a lot by Clare people, and they're thinking of charging you, or one of the suggestions is they'll charge you by kilometre along the way, and you'll get a bill, or you'll have whichever way of paying. Well, they can't have it every way. They're taking part of the Croom bypass as it stands now into that road. We already have a toll in County Limerick in the tunnel for us going in. So us going to Cork would pay 2 tolls. It's crazy. It cannot be the cost. That's all part of the upper huge spiral of cost to people.
Okay, we do have to leave it there. But gentlemen, thank you to both of you for joining me on the show this morning. Deputy Vice President of the Irish Road Hauliers Association, Eugene Drennan, and the Clare County Chair of the IFA, the fecal farmer, Stephen Walsh, with us.